tradition. You can't buy it. It's earned the hard way over decades and eras. On the field, on the road, in the mud. With guts and with grit, and firm belief that today could be our day. The Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup is back. Still alive, still kicking, the oldest prize in American soccer. 96 teams, part-timers to major leaguers. Survive and move on, lose and you go home. So we call all underdogs, dreamers and believers. And we ask you again, one simple question. Are you up for the cup?
Day 2 of the U.S. Open Cup continues in the Sun City as USL Championship side El Paso Locomotive welcome in the amateur unit Harpos FC from Boulder, Colorado. Welcome one and all to Southwest University Park in El Paso, Texas. My name is Mark Schoenster. You're watching the U.S. Open Cup Round 1 on U.S. Soccer's YouTube channel. We welcome you in onto this broadcast wherever you're tuning in from. This is the 110th edition of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. And what an occasion it always is to get this competition going again. Every single year, we see teams become legendary when they pull off cup sets. We see players who step into games where they're going up against bigger opponents and end up impressing so much that they get to make that jump from amateur to pro or from one pro rank to the next level. Here's the home side, El Paso Locomotive. They're in the second division, the USL Championship. Head coach Wilmer Cabrera. Their side has 2 draws already this season in league play, and they are looking for their first ever victory in the U.S. Open Cup. Meanwhile, on the other side, Harpos FC, an amateur side, also endearingly call themselves a pub club. Colin Harrison is the man in charge, also managing director and founder Johnny Freeston. Very critical to this side. They last qualified in 2020, but were not able to play, of course, because the competition was canceled. And here are your starting 11s for these 2 units. It's a very familiar starting 11 for the most part for El Paso Locomotive, starting the majority of their guys who played in that league game on Saturday against Phoenix Rising. Meanwhile, of course, we're going to get to know some of these Harpos FC players better as this game goes along. It'll be the home side in their home kits, the red for Harpos. Our head official, Melvin Rivas. We'll wait to get all the watches synced up. And here we go from El Paso. It's the USL Championship side against the pub club, Harpos FC. Let's see what this one has in store for us. Whether you're a fan of Harpos tuning in from Colorado, couldn't make the trip, you're an El Paso Locomotive fan, wasn't able to make it out today, we welcome you in. Or if you're a third-party member who's just watching all of the Open Cup fun that's happening today, to you in particular, we thank you for choosing this game out of all the games that are taking place right now. So much soccer is happening simultaneously right now. We already had some good drama in day 1, and we have some good drama already taking place right now in day 2. Now it's time to see all these teams square up against each other. So first off, this El Paso Locomotive side coming off a ridiculous 4-4 draw here at this same venue on Saturday against Phoenix Rising, a game they were up 4-1 in the second half, conceded 3 goals, so they still have a bitter taste in their mouth from that league game. And I think that's probably a big reason why the lineup we're seeing today includes many players who started and played in that game. From Tumi Moshaban, Beto Avila, Memo Diaz, Frank DeRoma, Tony Alfaro and Palermo Ortiz all started in that game, and Gabby Torres. So this is not a situation where Wilmer Cabrera, the head coach of El Paso Locomotive, is rotating many of his pieces and bringing in guys who may not get as many minutes in those league matches. This is a serious unit out there. Cabrera talking about that 4-4 game. He said, it's on us. We have to defend better. We scored 4 goals, and when you do that at home, you should win. That's something we need to fix, and quickly. I want to be a team that goes to the playoffs. We have to be a better team defensively, especially at home. We need to improve in that aspect. So we'll look to put up a better defensive showing in this one, on top of course, seeing if they can replicate their goal-scoring abilities from that last game. And they're going to get a corner kick here to start. First corner kick of the evening. Ball dips in, headed away, and then further cleared out. They'll stay with El Paso, but Harpos handle the first set piece. El Paso Locomotive actually scoring their first goal in that 4-4 game off a corner kick. Beto Avila able to knock it through. He's also starting in this game here. For this Harpos team, for those who are unacquainted, this is a club that was founded originally in 1997, the University of Colorado Boulder. They were originally called Barrel House, and Johnny Freeston, the founder / managing director, referred to those days as a drinking team with a soccer problem. So goes to show you the nature of this club. And then they would later change the name to Harpos Sports Bar and Grill, which is where they were based. End up shortening it to Harpos, and they represent that establishment even though it shut down back in 2018. So it's one lasting and ever continually giving memory of a local joint. Going to be a game where El Paso Locomotive are going to enjoy a lot of the possession as the side that's more trained. And I mean, let's be real here. This is a team that it's paid to practice and play every single day, whereas anyone wearing a red jersey today, they've got another job they've got to handle. They got to pay the bills. Challenge is fair, says the official. This one will roll all the way through, poked away by Braden Fidelac. Throwing that one in, also scored in that 4-4 thriller. You can hear some chanting from a traveling contingent for Harpos FC, making the trek down south. And then that one's overshot on that side of things. For El Paso Locomotive and for Harpos, of course, this is the first time these two sides have ever met in this competition, or in any competition for that matter. El Paso Locomotive still looking for their first U.S. Open Cup victory in club history. You may have noticed in their introductory graphic that their best finish has been in the second round, but in years past, of course, and still going in the format, there are teams that are introduced at later stages of the tournament, depending on their foothold in the U.S. soccer pyramid. This is the first time the club has hosted an Open Cup game since 2019 in its inaugural season. So they have that honor returned to them after having to go on the road year after year prior. Ball serviced inside, but it's dished away by Fidelac, one of the two center backs today from Erie, Colorado. As would imagine, just about every player on this team has a Colorado connection in some regard, playing football, whether it be at the high school, college, professional level. Brought them within earshot of Harpos now. And now that is where they're playing and competing. They play in the Colorado Premier League. Ball bends in, headed towards goal, but ends up glancing all the way out of the 18. Another throw in for El Paso. Torres whips in the cross. The follow through on the other side, blocked. Now Daroma, we'll see what he can do with it. This one, lovely slip ball through, but getting there first is Joel Chavez. Some nice words told to us about Mr. Chavez from Johnny Freeston, managing director of Harpos. One of the guys who, this is an opportunity for him to impress on a bigger stage. And that's one of the beauties of this competition. Players get seen and get discovered by playing in this competition when they have the opportunity to match up with an organization or a squad from higher ranks. The amount of times we've seen a player perform in an Open Cup game, play really well, win or lose against a team, and then you find out later in time that team ends up going and signing that guy. The team that was the bigger of the two clubs in the situation presented. So who knows? There could be a player on this team right now for Harpos that could in the future wear an El Paso Locomotive jersey. Now they'll see if they're gonna enjoy some possession here, the away side. They're able to compete in the 2015 and 2016 Open Cups. Would have competed in the 2020 Open Cup had it happened, but you all know what happened in 2020. They're able to win a game both 2015 and 2016 in the opening rounds. This isn't just a side that makes it, but been able to collect a victory or two. Daroma. There's that one, and Romero's going to have to track it down. Brian Romero, one of the few changes in the starting lineup in comparison to Saturday's game for El Paso Locomotive, as this one's rocketed inside, and the home team scores. Beto Avila sneaks it by the keeper. He's now scored in back-to-back games for El Paso Locomotive. And he skips it near post, besting Joel Chavez. Avila from Austin, Texas. Last played with Sporting Kansas City 2 before being picked up by El Paso Locomotive this season. And he has given the home side the advantage here. So the home side able to establish themselves early. They might be pushing for another opportunity there, but it's dealt with for the moment. Roma will roll this back to Ortiz, and they will continue to enjoy possession here. El Paso, worth mentioning, one of the changes to their starting lineup, albeit, although there weren't a ton, one of those is a changing goal. Sebastian Mora is there between the pipes, and that's because Jamali Waite has gone on international duty, along with his teammate Noah Dolenmeyer. Waite going to play with Jamaica for some Gold Cup qualifying matches. Meanwhile, Dolenmeyer is with the Dominican Republic for some friendlies with Puerto Rico. That's just another example of the caliber of this El Paso Locomotive, have at their dispense roster-wise. They're back up the pitch, and they will continue to press on here. Romero will bring this one forward, taps it out to Memo Diaz. DeRoma rolls it ahead to Mo Shaban. So far, it's been how Harpos would anticipate it. Talking to Johnny Friesen earlier today, he said obviously this matchup was going to be different from the Sunday leagues, as DeRoma wins it back for El Paso. Torres has some space, takes the shot, and it just glides over top. So Joel Chavez will put this one back into play. Saw a pretty venomous ball go in his direction there, but his services ultimately were not needed. As I was saying earlier, El Paso different from the Sunday League for sure, or going up against El Paso. Friesen saying, obviously in the Sunday Leagues, we can assert ourselves and play our style, but it won't be the same when we're going up against a pro side. So we're going to need to be organized on the defensive end. But given that being the circumstance, he said, we have never shirked a challenge. And then he said, it's Joes versus Bros. And I mean, that's just a great way to put it. Corner kick here for El Paso Locomotive. Once again, they've been bearing down on Harpos this entire game. The home side flexing their muscles in these opening 15 to 20 minutes. Rodwell headed away. Driven back in centrally. And now here's Shane Wheeler on the ball. The lone forward listed in the lineup for Harpos. Loading up the middle of the pitch with 5 midfielders. Looking to make sure that they can be as staunch in shape as possible.
Well, it's just going to be incredibly hard to be able to join. And that one will go wide, but when there's only one player high up against 3 backs, sometimes 4 backs, it can be incredibly difficult to build numbers, but that's something that Harpos is going to have to try to do throughout this first half.
It'll be interesting to see when they get the opportunity to have the ball, how do they bring it forward? Perhaps you'll get some midfielders who will cheat up further ahead. Well, these are all questions that you still have to wait to see answered, because for the most part they've had to sit in a defensive block and withstand everything that El Paso has thrown at them.
And so much of that is about building numbers, so it's the decision-making process of when to go direct in transition or to build and complete passes. That's the hard part when you have your numbers a little bit further back.
Torres taking it up ahead. Still Gabby Torres. He'll whip it across the center. And that's a brave header from the center back, Curtis Hale, knocking that across and over top his own crossbar.
And Torres does really well, inverting a lot in that inside channel, but decides to just go himself in this moment, takes on 2 players, whips this across, and that is really good clearance right there from the center back, because you're facing your own goal. Incredibly hard to get that up and out.
So there'll be another corner kick for El Paso here. Ball comes in. Hale, who just provided the clearance a moment ago, is the one who makes contact on that corner kick, and now a free kick earned for Harpos. It's an opportunity for them to see if they can push the ball down the field a little bit here. See, they got some numbers committed forward now. Football cleared away by Romero, and El Paso will have it again. Early goal scored by Beto Avila. A well-placed shot over on the right-hand side of the penalty area. Was able to skip it near post past Joel Chavez. Moshaban playing it out to Torres. Now player down now for Harpos. That's Davidson Andres Moreno Diaz. He's back up on his feet, though. It's El Paso Locomotive side coming into this year trying to shake off a bad taste in their mouth from last season. Second worst team in USL Championship, trying to flip that script this year. Well, so far, I would say not so good, but also not so bad. 2 draws to start out. And Wilmer Cabrera was talking about that mentality shift. And the biggest thing he said was that they're going to fight for everything. If the game's at home, we want to win. If it's away, we have to go win it there as well. We need support that with results, though, if you're going to talk that talk, and that's what he also mentioned on top of that.
Well, that's incredibly hard because it is a results-driven business, of course, so 2 ties, not so bad, but when you're looking at giving up goals against, that's the part where they really want to try to shape that up and be stingier on the defensive side, because they certainly have a lot of firepower going forward.
Oh, yeah. Contact from Shane Wheeler on this side. Our head official, Melvin Rivas, having a talking to with one of the Harpos players. It appears to be John Lister.
This ball's just played long right there. There's just some contact right there in the middle of the field going down, so the set piece will go the opposite direction. But you can see the direct ball from Harpos, just trying to get forward, play it off of Wheeler potentially, try to get runs in behind and just unsettle El Paso.
You always got to be worried about when you have the ball for so much of the game. You don't want to be picking daisies on the other side as one of the defenders and get complacent.
Well, and that's really difficult because there's that expansive shape as this ball gets played over the top. But when you get in that expansive shape as an attacking group, you are able to potentially get caught in transition. And that's certainly what they'll be looking to do against the opposition.
Set up shop and hope you can punish them in transition. That's the formula for a lot of teams when they know that maybe they're a little bit outmatched by their competition.
Exactly.
Perez sends that one in and will glide over everybody. Now, worth acknowledging Ricardo Perez, who is playing further back. He's probably the most interesting player on this roster for Harpos. This is a guy who at 29 years old had technically retired from professional soccer, but he played with the Colorado Rapids. He appeared for them in Open Cup games. He's played at the USL Championship, the USL League One level. This is a guy who has quite the resume showing up here for this amateur side.
That's really important for a back line too, to have someone that can lead there, not only from the defensive side, but also knowing when to get forward, when to make decisions to stay disciplined, keep the score tight. That's something that's really important for them, and he can bring in that outside back position.
Out for another corner kick. It'll be Gabby Torres once again who will take this corner here. Already had a handful of these corner kicks in this one in the opening 25 minutes. Ball driven in centrally, brought down, but easy platter to clear. So here's Sebastian Mora. Getting a touch on the ball here. The 26-year-old keeper getting the chance to play. Whether that's because Jamali Wade is out on international duty or not, the fact of the matter is he's getting a chance to play some minutes for his side. De Roma drags this one all the way back to the captain.
I like this from El Paso. They're recycling play, they're changing the point. When they've been forced back, Harpos, into this defensive shape, that's what you have to do, and you have to do it with speed, with intention, to try to find gaps in between the back line.
Just shifting them left and right. Waiting for the structure to just slightly fall apart, but now, hold on. Harpos pushing in the other direction. Avila, the goal scorer, able to dish that one out. Foray into the attacking third now, though, for Harpos. It's really a shame that team in 2020 didn't get the chance to compete because, according to everyone within that organization, that was their highest quality squad they had ever assembled. It was deep, it was strong, had 17 ex-pros. As that service falls into the hands of Mora. Obviously, the pandemic took place, and then after that, Johnny Friesen was saying that certain players got hurt, others got married, others moved, etc. Reasons that could disassemble a team anywhere, of course. and they had to take a hard reset. And so it's been a several-year rebuilding process ever since then. They've got some new core players now, and they've had their challenges over these past few years to get to this point. But according to Johnny Frieston, he feels this side here is going to very much resemble the two teams that were able to compete in the Open Cup in 2015 and 16. Carter, swarmed by two players. Textbook defending there, drawing the foul. 2015 and 2016 squads were all about the team, and that is the same way this Harpos team is built now and what these players are about.
That's what something that was said today in our conversation was showing that grittiness, that team-first mentality is something that you can expect to see from this group. And I think we've seen that since giving up that goal as well, just continuing to stay gritty, stay disciplined, work, because they're in this game, and you want to just be really stingy, and I think we're going to see that from them the majority of the evening.
It's very easy for these games to get out of hand after that first goal goes through. It's like the dam bursts, but... Exactly.
And that's incredibly hard to manage. But if you manage that first couple minutes after, it can become a little bit easier. Now, fatigue could set in later on, and then as you're trying to chase an equalizer, it could change. But they want to stay in this and keep it as close as possible for as long as they can, and try to get Wheeler into the game, you know, as they're able to progress going forward.
You keep it within one. Who knows what can happen?
Exactly.
Torres has to get this one back into play. Throws it into a sea of red, and then a fouling effort results in a free kick. Daroma, what about quickly taking it?
And Carter's looking to operate in that half space in front of the back line of Harpos. I like that they're stepping aggressively in there. Maybe you don't want to commit the foul necessarily, but they're not letting them get turned and face forward.
A lot of hacking at the ball here. And a free kick for El Paso. Not a bad spot to be taking on.
And right here, just looking to break the lines, trying to play through a lot of defenders from Harpos, trying to dispossess, but easier said than done, but just playing from the ground. It's an easy call for the referee for the set piece.
So now we wait to see who's going to be the one to potentially have a rip-it goal from here. Certainly not out of the realm of possibilities. Chavez will need to be on his best here. Ortiz, not on frame. The captain, Palermo Ortiz, trying to bend that one top right corner.
And it can be incredibly difficult to get this up and over a wall from that distance. Ortiz actually does a pretty good job with it. You can see the trajectory starting to get a little bit lower, but from that distance being that close, it's hard to get it on frame.
Lamar Ortiz, 32 years old, has now started in all 3 games since the start of the season for El Paso Locomotive, the 2 league games, and today as well. Loose touch there, we'll give it back to Harpos. Another thing El Paso Locomotive did in an attempt to remedy the woes they had last season is they separated the technical director and manager role into 2 separate positions. Of course, Wilma Cabrera, the manager of the team. Ray Sari was appointed technical director back in November. First person, of course, to hold the position, and they'll be tasked with scouting, recruitment, the signing of players, and will also oversee the development of young players through the academy. Just have more hands to make it lighter work, and hopefully that'll help bolster the whole structure as a whole.
There's an automatic checks and balances then that happens, and you can share the responsibility, as you said, but also be able to bounce ideas, to be able to see how things are working, what's not working, and just having that extra person to be able to help you in that is important.
Couple of hacks at that ball results in Locomotive winning it back. And now they're pushing forward. They've got some numbers. Daroma has to track this ball down. A breakaway opportunity goes to the wayside. Of course, they'll still be thankful to have won the ball back when they did. Harpos were trying to find that final third entry.
And when Harpos gets down into more of their low block defensively, they do go into 5 across the back, which helps them cover the width of the field where El Paso can be incredibly dangerous. So there's kind of that chess match piece that goes on, a little bit cagey, to figure out what spaces become available in that low block.
Torres floats it up, and it's too far ahead of Carter. Collision over in the right channel. El Paso player still down. No whistle's been blown. And it looks like able to get back up. Beto Avila, the goal scorer. He's the one who went down. He's still ailing a bit. He's crouched once again. That's always going to be another thing too, when having that compare and contrast between a pro club and an amateur club. Obviously everyone thinks about the amount of time you get to train as a professional, but also how often you get to be in the weight room and get to work out. Now obviously you can bring in a workout regimen even if you have your typical 9-to-5 job, but certainly not the same level of facilities, and these guys have got personal trainers and training staff, and there's that physicality element to this game that's also an uphill battle for a team like Harpos.
Which a lot of times doesn't rear its head in the first half. It's something that you can see take shape as the game goes on at times, because little things are the separators, because it's not necessarily a talent thing. You're right. I mean, it's depending on every resource that you have, it can be incredibly difficult. But right now, you know, Harpos looks good. They look like they're staying in it, but the longer the game goes on, there's a physical and mental fatigue of defending too. The way the game goes, the context of defending against a team like this can be incredibly difficult.
Service booted away. As El Paso Locomotive continue to ask questions, gives them more and more of a likeliness to find an answer here, or at least another answer, having already found the back of the net once. Lifted ball, dealt with this time by Ricardo Perez. Torres, another service. That left boot of his has been busy today, serving in those crosses.
Well, there's been quite a few services from that outside channel from both sides, but Torres has done extremely well. And what I like about this ball, it forces the defense to face their own goal. That's what's so incredibly difficult. Instead of looking to go inline every time where you get a lot of bodies retreating towards the penalty area, that early service really can throw them off and be dangerous.
To catch them slacking at any given moment, and then, as he mentioned, put them in an awkward position. Another corner kick, though. Torres finds Daroma. Now the service from Diaz. Great save. Joel Chavez with the quick reaction.
And this was absolutely incredible because there was such close range on this, and Chavez comes up extremely big. These are moments that matter in games like this that are tight, because that will break it wide open. Some good possession play from El Paso, the ball to the back post, and it's this header across. It's a powerful header. It's at that mid-range where it gives Chavez a chance, but still a great save.
Daniel Carter with the header. Joel Chavez able to knock it down, but they break through here on the corner kick. Brian Romero, the 22-year-old, tucks it in the bottom left corner.
And this is incredibly tough for Harpos, but great if you're an El Paso Locomotive fan. It's that movement from Romero. Yes, the header is great, but the movement to get off the backside shoulder, the service was great, and a lot to be happy about for El Paso.
Romero, player who's on loan from FC Juarez, which is the sister club to El Paso Locomotive, just across the border. And the 22-year-old is able to find his first goal this season. And of course, the second Open Cup goal here tonight for El Paso Locomotive, who now have a comfortable lead.
And this is where you start to wonder how important free kicks are going to be, because there's a defensive shape of a 4-4-2 that we're seeing, and then a 5-back at times from Harpos, but they've got to figure out how to get numbers forward at this point. But there's that risk of opening themselves up even more. Set pieces are a big part of how you can try to crawl back into games.
Be a great equalizer in matches like this. A club that didn't always even have practices week to week, so and if you don't have the time to, then you certainly don't, though they've certainly added that in recent years. Now they'll have the opportunity to have their first corner kick. I mean, you're going to have training sessions if you have a head coach, Colin Harrison, the man in charge of this side from the coaching point of view. Now we'll see. I can execute anything here. They're all going to bunch up by the penalty marker.
And you would think that Wheeler would be a target on this, just being in that target forward position as the striker, getting a lot going on in that penalty box area right there, so he can kind of break free and be an option.
Service, dips down, punched away. Stretching out with Sebastian Mora. After conceding a second goal, Harpos enjoying some possession here. Courtesy of a free kick into a corner. Punched again. Here's a volley, smothered. Another attempt will float over to the right channel. Torres in the corner. Now it's Moshoban. We'll get out of harm's way. And that challenge declared foul by our head official, Melvin Rivas. Patrick Allen.
And Patrick Allen steps very hard. They're in that rest defense shape, so there's no transition, and they're looking to get out quickly, El Paso, in that moment. You just make sure that Carter isn't able to separate. Might be a little lucky not to get a card there, just because of the nature and context of how they were going to get out, it really disrupted play. I don't know if it was necessarily fully dangerous, but it was the context with which it happened.
Well, certainly checking to see if our head official was going to dig into the pocket. But no booking so far, about 41 minutes in. Colin Harrison, the man in charge of the coaching side of things for the first team. He's spent the last 3 college seasons as an assistant at the Division II Colorado School of Mines, in which there are several players on this roster that spent time there at Mines. He's a player that, from Boulder, went to Gonzaga to play at the college level and then went pro in Iceland, Canada, England, played for 6 years in Spain's 3rd division. He actually played for Harpos a few years back, so was close with Johnny Friesen, and when the last head coach moved to Tampa, that was the decision. Let's bring in Colin.
There's an opening, exactly. And it's nice to see that, to kind of come full circle a little bit, where now he's in charge of this group, taking them through this Open Cup run.
Certainly a high honor and opportunity. Mo Shaban, a loose touch. So it's about 3 minutes, and then give or take whatever is added on. And now El Paso Locomotive, this game about going the way they would have liked. They've controlled the tempo, they've got 2 goals. For them it'll be, of course, can they do it consistently for 90 minutes? Able to score goals in their first 2 games of the season, 6 of them to be precise. So it'll be about, can they hold down the fort for the 90 minutes?
Well, first and foremost, they want to just win this game, but you know it has to be etched in their brain that they had that 3-goal lead in their last outing. So there is also things to continue to grow and be better, which they'll look into, especially if they are able to have more goals in this game.
Another situation where Curtis Hale had to get that one right. Goes out for a corner. Watching this one on the US Soccer YouTube channel, where you'll be able to find all the Open Cup games here for the first round. Hope you've been enjoying all the action and drama, not only yesterday, but also today and tomorrow. So much soccer to be viewed. Kick dips down, makes contact with Mo Shaban. Contact's pretty much all that could be used to describe the potency of that one. So El Chavez will put this one back into play, the 26-year-old goalkeeper. Another element of this one that's going to be a memory for these players playing for Harpos, especially those who don't have that pro experience, being able to play at a pro venue and play against a fan base that's, I mean, of the professional level.
And for those that haven't been able to do it, you don't know until you see it. Some of these players have, and we talked about that, especially like a Wheeler and players that have the more veteran experience. But once you see it, you kind of have that motivation to go, okay, that's the level. That's where I potentially want to be, and it's nice to take that back.
Beto Avila, that's a nice touch. And then he earns a corner kick. He's able to shake by one defender, open up a window of opportunity. And yet another corner kick for the home team. They've done nothing but bear down here on Harpos. They're able to score their second goal off a corner kick. Service is still inside, and it trickles through for a third. And make it a first half brace for Brian Romero. The youngster enjoying himself this Wednesday evening.
Well, this is what good teams do. They take advantage in all different facets of the game. They have the ball retention piece. They're able to keep possession, but they also take advantage on corner kicks. It's defended well initially, but Romero just looks like he wants to anticipate and be optimistic. What if it bounces to me? I got to be ready to get my feet right, and he does just that. He did it on his first corner kick goal and does it on the second.
From Garden Grove, California, Brian Romero. He's enjoyed this first half, and so have the whole of El Paso Locomotive. They've conquered for 45-plus minutes. 3-0 your scoreline. They've dictated the tempo, and they have the scoreline to back it up. So with that, a trio of goals for the home side. And we'll step aside for the halftime break. When we come back, we'll have the stats and the highlights for you here from the first half. And then the second half kick, your second 45 minutes here on the YouTube channel for US Soccer. We'll be back after a couple minutes. second half on deck here between El Paso Locomotive and Harpos FC. Mark Schoenster alongside me, Casey White. Let's take a look at what happened in the first 45 minutes of action here in this opening round of the U.S. Open Cup. And throughout the entirety of that first 45 minutes, it was the professional side continually knocking on the door and eventually breaking through.
And it was Avila with the strike right there, but that long service and then the one-touch pass to spring him into the penalty box. All around a great goal. They would continue to push forward. Torres did really well off the left side, had many opportunities for service and for opportunities on frame.
El Paso Locomotive showing why they're the hosting professional side in this one. Harpos at many points did well to do away with the threats, but then 2 corner kicks put this one into a very comfortable spot for the home side.
And Chavez made that really good save, and it was unfortunate to give up the ensuing corner kick off a header. And then this one right at the end. This is the one that's really heartbreaking for Harpos, but good finish, a brace in the first half for Romero, just being really opportunistic off the corner kicks.
And now we'll have a chance to look at the match stats, and that just about tells you the story if the highlights didn't do it for you. And that's the fact that El Paso have controlled this one. They've been the ones asking all the questions, and they've got the goals to show for it.
What's really nice is a lot of times you can dominate possession, but are you dangerous in that possession? And creating 12 shots, yes, only 4 on frame, so just a third. They could increase that a little bit, but 12 shots out of that 79% possession is really impressive. Harpos just needs to figure out how can they increase the shots, and that has to start with possessing or a more direct style of play to kind of force the issue in their attacking final third.
Yeah, they're put into a tough bind now where if they continue to hold back the way they have been, they're down 3-0. You're not going to have a ton of opportunities to fight back in this game. But if you get more aggressive, then you're allowing yourself to be more exposed in the back, and it could get ugly on the scoreline.
Well, I think that's what we're going to find out here very quickly is what is the mentality of how they want to go into this. Do they want to try to just match up and say, okay, let's see where the chips fall. Let's get after it and see really what the separation is. Do they want to keep it close? Like, it's interesting. It'll be really interesting to see what they do and how this coaching staff brings them out.
And it's an interesting point as well, because this is a side going in that wanted to perform with grit in this game, but the question is, what does that look like? Does that mean trying to continue to play the way you've been playing, or does that mean, all right, we're going to get more aggressive now because we're not going to go out without trying to generate some chances for ourselves? You could argue either way.
I think you bring a good point, because being structured and being gritty doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. So can you be structured defensively in moments where El Paso really shows that they have the possession, and there's that can be gritty as well. You can still have the 1v1 defending. You can show that you can stay disciplined. But are there moments to maybe go a little bit more forward? We'll see. It's incredibly hard to do when you're playing an opposition like they are.
Especially an opposition that can dig into their bench and sub in 2 guys who have already scored this season. On top of that, Frank DeRoma out for Eric Calvillo, whom is actually his first appearance of the season with the club. The longest tenured player on the team, his 4th year with El Paso Locomotive. But the 2 goal scorers I was talking about, Andy Cabrera, who scored in their first game this season, and then of course Amanda Moreno, who has already scored 3 goals. So needless to say, a ton of firepower for Wilmer Cabrera to work with, and also not just going to sit on a 3-goal lead either. And here they come. So with Amanda Moreno subbing in, he is actually named USL Championship Player of the Week for his performance in that game against Phoenix Rising. 3 goals in his first 2 games, which is already halfway to his 2024 total of 6 last year. And not only was it Moreno who received honors last week, Gabby Torres and Beto Avila also making Team of the Week for Week 2 in the USL Championship. Torres scoring his first goal since 2023 in that game against Phoenix Rising. as Moreno brings it forward.
Well, we have to talk about the bicycle kick.
Oh,
I mean, that was incredible. You see a lot of attempts at it. That's one of the better ones with the actual finish that I've seen in a long time. And that is a player that's not only creative but confident. And so to start the season that way with a player that's feeling it and then able to connect on it, no telling what his performance is going to be like, not only in this game but in the coming weeks.
So 3 changes coming out of the break for El Paso Locomotive. Harpos readying a change now following the start of the second half. Yeah, like you were saying, to execute on that in match day 2. Goodness. A stunner of a goal, to say the least. Well, the craziest part about it is it may not even been the most impressive goal in that game.
Well, there were a lot to choose from.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of good goals.
I would probably still argue that that was the most difficult goal to score.
It is. It definitely is. There were a lot of good finishes, but that's incredibly difficult to do. The timing, the technique, but really it's just the timing of letting the ball drop and the connection you make is incredibly difficult.
Cabrera rolling this one forward. Carter was searching for Moreno. So it'll be a deep throw in for El Paso Locomotive. In case you've not been keeping tabs on some of the scores in these Open Cup games, we did have a cup set that just wrapped up. The Little Rock Rangers besting the USL Championship side, Birmingham Legion FC. So make sure you're keeping tabs on all those scores, because you never know when one of these underdog teams are gonna strike. It was a 1-0 in that one.
But I think the U.S. Open Cup epitomizes what's so great about football, is that anyone can win on any given day. You just have to have a game plan, you have to execute, maybe a little luck here or there, but I think that that's what's so exciting about our game, is by stepping on the field, just because you are the better team doesn't guarantee you will win. And that's what I think gets fans and players so excited about this type of format.
Of course, there's always the argument about the more proper competition in soccer is the table, the season, because then it's a much more thorough process. But when you can just have some knockout soccer, win or go home.
It's wonderful. It's just a good additional piece for the soccer fan.
Especially when you can bring in teams from all these different levels, and you just have that opportunity for a little chance at glory. Harpos fishing for some of that right now. Ball still in play. The service wouldn't even glance out for a corner kick there. Shane Wheeler trying to generate something for his side. So 3 goals in that first half for Wilmer Cabrera's side. On the Harpos side of things, when it comes to just what this club is about, Johnny Freeston, the founder / managing director, said that our ethos is one of winning. We know what it takes to win, and you're going to see grit no matter what on the field, no matter what takes place in this game. And some contact here will mean Harpos will win back possession. But to continue that thought, he said, look, we're never going to give in. It's a one-off game, so who's to say what'll happen? So as we were just talking about a moment ago, that's the same idea that Harpos had coming into this one. He said there's no pressure for us, absolutely none. It's all on them, because they're the professional side. They are the ones who have to avoid being embarrassed.
We'll just see Wheeler committing the foul there, but I think also to your point, one of the things that I think we are seeing here tonight as well is something that Johnny Freeston talked about, was they like to play a free-flowing style of possession soccer. They want it to be pretty. Even though they are playing an opponent that has outmatched them so far in this game, they're still trying to play that style, which is refreshing to see. Not just going long, direct, but really showcasing what they're about.
Not about that Route 1 soccer, as they make their first change. Juan Araki subs in. Patrick Allen makes his exit. first tactical change for Colin Harrison. You're allowed 7 players on your bench. They only had 6 Harpos, but part of that's got to be because, as we'll hold that thought for just a moment, dished away by Hale of a corner kick. But just in this past week, they've had a couple of significant injuries that can't make excuses about it, but I mean, it's pretty unfortunate right before this huge game for your season.
It's incredibly difficult because you don't have a lot of depth at times, and so you're depending on everyone to be healthy, and to have 3 major injuries in the last week, that changes the way you've been preparing for a game like this, and then certainly your depth coming off the bench.
This is a game that surely they've been preparing for quite a while. It's not just another game on the weekend, as that one's parried inside and an own goal. Deflects off the chest, and El Paso Locomotive opened their scoring account for the second half.
And when you're a team that's coming up against a team like El Paso, you need things to go your way. For 3 corner kicks, they have not, and this is the epitome of it, going right off the center back's chest in that moment. Extremely difficult moment, but the body position was just off with that bouncing in. It wasn't a good service, but Fidelak could have been turned a little bit more where his right foot is facing more out, and potentially then it doesn't deflect off into the goal.
A bad stroke of luck, but perhaps could have been avoided. As Casey talked about positioning. Either way, a rough one to let up if you're Harpos here in the second half.
Well, I think some people can easily say, well, it's been 3 corner kicks out of the 4 goals, so they've done well, you know, defensively, which I think there is a part of that is correct. But when you are a team that possesses a lot, you get rewarded for those corner kicks. So it's the possession that's really allowed them to do it. So I think El Paso has to be given credit for just putting that pressure on, making them have clearances, and they've just been able to execute.
Take advantage of the opportunities presented to you, the ones that you create for yourself. You score 3 goals in transition, you score 3 goals in transition, you score on 3 set pieces, then
exactly,
right.
Exactly.
Calvillo subbing into the game, is able to send it over to Chumesi.
And in the second half, Harpos has defended more in a 4-back, like a 4-4-1-1, keeping Wheeler higher. And I think they're able to find a little bit more gaps, El Paso, just because the lines are getting more and more spread out. That happens as the game goes on, because you inevitably want to push to try to get a goal, try to get something. But when you have the caliber that El Paso has, they're finding the half space right in front of the back line.
So contact there, a wipeout for both those players. Perfect vantage point for the assistant. He says it's all fair play. Now, the head official, Melvin Rivas, has to talk to Tony Alfaro.
And it's a direct ball over the top that's going right in on that challenge. It looked like just trying to get a touch on it. It didn't look like a whole lot in me. It's just, to me, because you're just not ready to take that confrontation in that moment.
Alfaro, of course, was given a red card in that game against Phoenix Rising, but this being a different competition, he's able to play in the next game. It won't be on the weekend that he'll be available. And speaking of cards, there's a booking. John Lister, the first one in the books.
Well, and Lister was the one who had just had the no-call foul on the inline, so I think our referee might be looking for it as well. But that is a foul, definitely right there in that moment, and warranting the yellow.
Always got to look for repeat offenders.
Just a little bit too late right there as Chumesi gets a little touch on it just to keep possession for his team.
El Paso Locomotive feeling very comfortable at this 4-0 advantage. There was that creeping thought in the back of my head, up 3 goals, that, well, They were up 3 goals in half number 2 on Saturday, and that wasn't enough to get the victory, but a 4-0 victory or 4-0 lead certainly lends itself to them thinking they're going to get the victory here, and they're looking for their first ever Open Cup win, having lost in every other edition of the Open Cup in their first match. These past 2 years having been bested by USL League One side Union Omaha. Last year at Warner Park, which is where the Owls play. Went all the way to penalties, a 0-0 game. And at that point, I mean, you go to pens and you're asking for that
the great
to
equalizer.
maybe happen. Yeah.
Exactly. You just do not know what's going to happen when it gets to that point.
This is the first time, though, in their history that they're playing against a non-USL League One side. So looking to take advantage and get that first dub against an amateur club versus a team that's just 1 tier below them. Moreno tapping out to his right for Diaz, and he'll roll it back to Chumesi. Moreno sends in the cross, falls down, ripped towards goal. That one had some heat behind it. Gabby Torres ripping it on frame.
And it was the interchange in the wide space on the right side that really starts everything. Moreno finds the back post area. It's a good first touch off the bounce, gets his body over it. Chavez not able to be strong enough to push that over the crossbar with his hands, but that is a rip from Torres. And what I love about it was the technique to get over the ball, get it on frame.
Take a chest touch and then let it fly. Another substitution now for Harpos. It'll be number 9 out for number 8, Shane Wheeler for Quinn Matulis. And then a number 9 coming in for El Paso Locomotive. Frank Lopez subbing in for Daniel Carter. So the attacking 3 for El Paso Locomotive has now fully been reloaded. And another very potent goal scorer in Frank Lopez steps in. It's actually his first game in an El Paso Locomotive jersey that he's playing. Coming over from Miami FC.
It just keeps coming, just so many options off the bench. And part of this is when you get a lead like this, it bodes well for them because they can work on different partnerships, different units. Like, I mean, they're thinking about other games as well. And so it's how they work together is really important in getting minutes, keeping everyone confident.
And we're not sure what the approach is going to be for El Paso Locomotive coming into this game. Sometimes when the disparity between the level of the 2 clubs is super wide, as this one's lofted in. Could this be an opportunity here? Squared ball, denied immediately. Araki gets it back out. Pekovic getting tugged at a lot and eventually draws the whistle.
But I like Araki that he's looking for that finish when he was in the penalty area. Like, you're not going to get too many opportunities, so that ruthlessness in there is really important. And then he's able to chase it, win it down, and they eventually get this set piece. But I would take my time on this, make sure it's organized, make sure the service is ready to go, because this could be an opportunity to bring one back.
So Danilo Pekovic, one of the players that Johnny Freeston highlighted to us as being one of the big contributors to this team. His service can't reach a red jersey, but perhaps the press can win the ball back. A little bit of chirping there between the 2 sides. The captain, George Marchant, was trying to see if he could earn his team a throw-in. Lofted ball down the field. Lopez went for the cheeky attempt. Ends up drifting well wide. But to continue my thought from earlier, you wonder what the roster structure is going to look like for this El Paso Locomotive team coming into this game. Do you get in some of the guys who aren't going to get as many minutes when you're playing in a league match? Or are you going to try to maybe get some more time to gel since it's early in the season? And it's certainly the latter there. I mean, this is the whole roster here for the team when they want to go win against their fellow USL Championship sides.
I think you have to. I think, one, you have to do it for the U.S. Open Cup and just respecting the opponent. Just take a look at that, as there was an opportunity there, a little bit of a dangerous play, but you respect the opponent, you respect the tournament, so you go for it. And, you know, having a little bit of gap in playing, but also with them starting with 2 draws and having some question marks on the defending piece, I think you also have to think about how you solidify your roster and get everyone gelling together. So we take a look at this last one. Ball was played in, and it's Lister again. Has to be a little bit careful because he's on the yellow card already, so they don't want it to go from bad to worse with him potentially picking up a second yellow.
I think that respect piece is also really big. Not every single team affords that, and I think that says a lot about El Paso, that they are trotting out pretty much their A team here to go up against Harpos, because on the flip side, if you're Harpos, you want to go up against the big dogs of the team you're playing against.
It's pretty interesting because El Paso does have a sooner game than most teams as well coming up this weekend. Some people have 10 days off, and they may be the professional team and have more time to rest, but they've done it where, hey, let's play our lineup, let's get some early goals, and then we can start to trickle people in from there.
Moreno. Torres able to track that one down. Gabby Torres chips it up, and the scissored volley attempt won't go through, and it does leave your body kind of exposed. He's slow to get up. I was going for the spectacular there. And this one, it's in! Harpos get one back! The Bros are on the board. Batiste Bure.
And this is great play. I love this floated ball. De Bure rises there, just gets it back across. All he has to do is read the service of the flight. Not easy. Uses Moramora's leaning towards his right against him, gets it back to that far post. And how fun is this for Harpos? I said that if they continue to go, they're going to be able to potentially try to get one back, and they have.
You've earned your trip to the U.S. Open Cup. You've earned a chance to play against a second division club. And now you have the honor of having scored against them. Batiste Bure, 25 years old, from Kirkland, Washington. Mentioned earlier, several players on this team with ties to Colorado School of Mines. He's one of them. Played there for 4 years. Ortiz is fouled out, opting to quickly retake it, but they're not going to be afforded that.
Well, I will say, a couple minutes before that goal came, there were some opportunities getting into the penalty box, some more box entries, and we talked about it early on in the second half. What were they going to do? Were they going to sit in, or were they going to continue to try to go forward? And we've gotten our answer. They're still going to try and create something. It just may leave them exposed at the back, but they're rewarded with the goal.
So now a free kick for El Paso Locomotive on the other side of things. It's Diaz and Torres, those two wingers. Ball's lofted in, headed away by Hale. He's been asked to make a lot of tough plays there right in front of his own goal.
His box defending has been really good. He was tested a lot in the first half with those bending balls behind the back line, and he's done a really good job of being able to clear it out. Yes, they're conceding corner kicks, but it's a barrage of chances that keep coming that he's having to deal with.
So Torres will go over to the left corner flag, one of the goal scorers in this game. Well, now he'll relinquish duties to Diaz. 5 goals for El Paso, but Harpos able to get one back. A lovely floated ball and a nice headed finish. Lopez cuts to his right. Lopez with a squaring ball in the middle. Cleared away. Another corner kick for El Paso. You mentioned the turnaround for El Paso Locomotive playing on Saturday on the road against New Mexico United. But it's also a pretty quick turnaround for Harpos as well, getting their Sunday League started in the Colorado Premier League, their first game. And on top of that, it's also what they call Powder Month. In Colorado, the ski slopes are at their best at this moment. Busy, busy time as Harpos gets a substitution executed here. Perez is out and Daniel Whittle steps in. And then on top of that, Diaz is out and Jake Feiner subs in for Harpos. That one headed back down. This time, the center back able to keep that one from trickling through. Once again, Curtis Hale putting himself in the right spot and making the right play.
It's a really heads-up play from Hale again, just covering in behind Chavez in that moment. Really good from him because that one looked like it was actually going towards that back post area.
Romero has a brace and gives it to Diaz. When it comes to that quick turnaround for Harpos, Johnny Freeston said that he's not too worried about it. They've got 30 to 40 players on their roster, so they'll make it work. Whoever's still fit from this game, they'll get the look, but they've got a lot of options outside of that. Again, this is a side that loves to control the ball and have it when they're up against their competition, their regular competition. Another chance here for El Paso, but the incisive pass was lacking.
Well, it's really interesting from El Paso because they kind of invert their forwards, their wingers inside. So there's those inside to outside runs that they're doing really well on and being able to penetrate behind that back line. It's just a different way that the back line of Harpos is having to defend.
$20 more minutes to go. Hope you've been enjoying all of your Open Cup fun today. Already mentioned the upset that Little Rock were able to complete just a little bit ago. Des Moines Menace able to best Sporting Kansas City 2. It's another cup set. Some pressure from Harpos. And now the whistle is blown. And we got a player down, rolling around. Is Brian Romero. He's got 2 goals in this game. The youngster, up to this point, have been enjoying his evening.
And George Marchant just goes right in there, and it looks a little bit interesting. It definitely looked like he caught his leg in that moment. Marchant does not agree with it. Didn't look as bad as it initially did at full speed, but definitely a foul.
Romero sitting up, and hopefully it's nothing too serious, especially with this tight week. Play on Saturday, play on Wednesday, play on Saturday again.
Well, and that's something to consider as you're going into more of the waning moments of the game, is protecting players as well. And you're going to see a lot of fight from Harpos. And I don't think there was anything in that challenge. It's a foul,
right.
but the reality is they're still fighting. They're still showing their grittiness. And you want to make sure that your players are staying healthy going into the weekend as well.
It is a rough combination, though, as you mentioned. At this point, the game's all but settled, barring something absolutely wild. But Harpos are going to want to play this one out. They're going to play it hard because this is their opportunity to play against a side like this. And they rightfully should play hard throughout the rest of this one. But then you couple that with now as ultimately self-preservation for El Paso through the rest of this game.
Well, if you are overmatched like Harpos has been so far in this game as a team, but individually, can you test yourself? How do you match up against someone from El Paso from an individual perspective as well? So there's a lot of gains that can be had for this team playing in this moment, even though there's a lot of separation in the score at this point.
Yeah. Still have an opportunity to impress, whether that be to impress the eyeballs of that coaching staff for El Paso Locomotive, or to impress anybody who's tuning in and watching this game from wherever it may be. One floats all the way up. A miscommunication, but well handled by Curtis Hale once again. He's been Johnny on the spot in this game.
He's been the ultimate covering player. Chavez unhappy with Pekovic in this moment. I understand what Pekovic is doing, though. It makes sense. Chavez was just coming a little bit too aggressively outside of the frame of goal. Hale is there because Memo Diaz looked like he was going to step right away and maybe be able to put that into an open net. But if not for Hale, it would have happened.
Curtis Hale from my neck of the woods, Richmond, Virginia. And then spent 4 years at Colorado College, so that's how he found his way over to that Harpos connection.
Well, I think they're probably happy he did because he's done well this evening.
22 years old, a lot of soccer ahead of him. That one glancing off of Ortiz. I don't even know how much he knew about that one.
It was a little bit silly there.
Toledo plays it out to the right-hand side. Harpos looking to see if they can find another here. No foul called there, so goal kick incoming.
But there's some really good style of play stuff going from all the way from the left side all the way to the right to be able to generate that attack.
Another change for the home team. Alvaro Quezada steps in, and Gabby Torres, who was a very busy man throughout this game, makes his exit.
He was extremely influential in this game. Really good services, playing inside, inverted, like creating things in the overloads wide. I really just like watching him play and his impact on the attacking side of the game.
15 more minutes to go in this one. After 2 draws to start the year in professional play for El Paso Locomotive, I'll be happy to put a notch into the win column, and they'll hope to carry that over into league competition. Meanwhile, for Harpos, still a lot of positive to take away from this game, especially given the fact that considerable contingent here at the game. A little under 50 people according to what they were expecting, and part of that being because apparently former player lives in the El Paso area. He's bringing a whole crew. Have some others traveling down. That's pretty sweet. You're hearing their chants earlier in the game.
Well, that's really nice just to have a little taste of home and have that support definitely in the stands. It's not an easy game to come into, and so you always like seeing that.
Also wasn't an easy game to get to. There was a dust storm yesterday
True.
in El Paso, and meant traveling or just even existing in the area was a bit difficult yesterday.
I've been caught in one of those. I used to live out in Lubbock, not quite all the way to El Paso, but they happen out there for sure.
Well, it's a good thing it's not happening today. At least for our own selfish reasons.
That'd be the 12th man, wouldn't it be?
Oh my goodness.
To go up against, that would not be good.
Already have so many things you have to prepare for a game, and that would be quite the tangible element added to a match that you wouldn't have possibly considered. Quezada just stepped into the match. So of course we've got action tomorrow in the Open Cup, so you'll be able to tune into that all here or you're watching this game. But if you're an El Paso Locomotive fan who you're now starting to think about, all right, what's next? April 1st or April 2nd will be the second round. So that is the next time El Paso Locomotive will be playing.
And that's actually really good pressing moments from Harpos in there. You're not going to necessarily win it on the first one. El Paso's too good in possession, but initially the second wave of pressure, the third wave of pressure, you start to disrupt a little bit. So there's little things like that they can take from this game against a team that's really comfortable in possession.
Talking about pressure, we alluded to it in the first half, and Casey, I'm not seeing too much drop-off fitness-wise from this Harpos team now that we're nearly 80 minutes through.
I would agree with that, and it's not like they've sat back in a low block and defended. They've definitely looked to gain ground as they've been able to, like they're doing right now, where everyone's stepping up a little bit more. So I think that they've done a really good job with that, and from a fitness perspective, it looks pretty good.
Toledo playing this one ahead, and it slipped through. He's dribbling by the keeper. Oh, cleared away. Jake Feiner couldn't find the back of the net. Nearly a second for Harpos.
And this is a great run. Breaks all lines right here, going right through. It's Feiner going in. The center back step to the player that went into that half space. Just a little bit too big of a touch. A little bit too wide, hard to get the hips around, allows some extra time to recover, but a great incisive ball to penetrate the back line.
A dangerous pass, and only one man was committed to getting to that ball. Now they have a corner. Toledo again. He was the one who delivered the pass.
And something that may not have really been seen was DeBure checking off the front line too. Both center backs bit at that, and that's what happened when Feiner came from midfield. It was a late run in, and it was the perfectly placed ball from Toledo. So really good play. And for El Paso, we talked about the goals against struggles that they had the first two games of the season. They've already given up one. That could have easily been a second goal against a team that does not play at the level that they're being expected to play against as they go week in and week out.
Some reasons to raise your eyebrows, whether you're on the coaching staff or just a fan of this El Paso Locomotive side.
And I know it sounds incredibly harsh because they're up 5-1, but as a coaching staff, that is what you think about, is making sure that you're disciplined in all moments. Whenever you play, it doesn't matter the opposition. You're thinking about your team identity, and you want to continue to grow.
Well, you wouldn't be in the right business if you weren't overly critical of the way your team performed as a coach. Got to make sure you pick apart anything that you can work and hone, especially at this point in the year where there are ample things to work on and hone. That's another lovely ball over top. Good idea, but Sebastian Mora was privy to it. Yeah, Luis Toledo, the Denver man, has come in and had some very curious moments playing that ball forward. As Lopez is now slow to get back up on his feet. Nowhere to go with the ball. Moreno being attacked from both ends. He gets it returned to him though, and then it's stolen away.
Not only has Toledo had the distribution, but he's also been disruptive in that midfield since he has come into the game. He's done extremely well.
Ball going forward for Cabrera. Andy Cabrera, of course, the son of the head coach, Wilmer Cabrera. And now the training staff being waved on. One player down for Harpos. It's 3 goals in the first half, 2 of which from corner kicks for El Paso Locomotive, giving them the 3-0 lead. Another corner kick goal, and ultimately being an own goal, made it 4-0. So the contact there happening.
Yeah, it was really away from the ball. It was just interesting at the top of the penalty area.
So trotting out is the other center back, Braden Fiddleack. So I believe he'll just be waiting to get waved back on. Played at the D1 level, 5 years, 74 appearances with Loyola Marymount. Toledo beating it forward. And over on the left-hand side, it's Pekovic. He's dealt with. 5 goals to open up for El Paso Locomotive, but Harpos were able to find one for themselves. That one cleared away by Fiddleack.
But you're seeing some good pressing moments from Harpos. They're in that 4-1-4-1 shape. It's making it a little bit harder. Toledo kind of comes underneath, and eventually El Paso does get out of it and is able to go forward. But there's some really good things from Harpos we're seeing here.
So with 5 more minutes to go here from Southwest University Park. We're entering the closing moments of this one in the first round of the 110th edition of the U.S. Open Cup. Quezada, back to Diaz. That one rolling all the way through for a goal kick. Not making contact with the red shirt. Ultimately, though, at least on the offensive end, you have that one blemish that you let get through if you're El Paso Locomotive, and you had one other opportunity you afforded to Harpos that could have been a second goal, but outside of that, you gotta be pretty pleased with the way you controlled this game. You've kept it cool.
They've definitely looked in control, and it's not easy to match up with teams that you haven't played before, so you have to really adapt in the game. You got to be comfortable on the ball. They've done extremely well, and I know we've talked about Harpos being able to stay in it as much as they can, but El Paso has looked very refined in the way they play and the way they try to attack.
They knew going into the game that they were the side with the higher quality, and they have exercised and utilized that advantage, on top of course, being here at home and what that gives to a team. Toledo. Couple of tapped passes. Go all the way back to the keeper before they push it forward once again. Once again, trying to see if they can catch El Paso sleeping at any point in time, and they might have something here. Service driven inside. But like the header dealt with easily.
And I think it'd be fair to say, even though Harpos has been outmatched, we have seen that grittiness that Johnny Freeston talked about and continuing to grow into the game. There's been no sign of slowing down or conceding. They're staying disciplined, they're fighting, they're trying to play that free-flowing game of attacking possession. It's just a tough matchup for them, but I think they have to be happy with that piece.
Well, we even seen them come in here in the second half and did get more aggressive. You mentioned their change of shape, which exposed them a little bit, but up to this point, they've conceded 2 goals here in the second half as opposed to the 3 in the first, and they've been able to generate more chances, and case in point, they were able to score.
Good decision there by Hale on that ball played in, because if that slips through, you got him right on the back post wide open.
Pekovic all the way into the left channel. Mora will keep it in bounds and will tap it back into his penalty area. And out some more of that clock. Calvillo connecting with Romero. Good to see that he's looking to be moving just fine after the contact he had earlier. 2 goals in this one for Brian Romero. Cabrera plays it up ahead. Lopez goes down. Cabrera continues the run. Now Moreno fires. It dings the crossbar.
Well, it's the run from Cabrera that I really like, because it forces the back line to make a decision. Do I go with the run or do I go with the player on the ball? Moreno's on the ball. Cabrera keeps going. There's just that little bit of hesitation from Whittle, and Moreno takes advantage of it. It goes off the crossbar, but a great opportunity.
It takes just the smallest of windows for Armando Moreno to let it fly, and he will make it a pretty dangerous one whenever he can. As we hit that 90-minute mark, we're gonna get 2 more minutes tapped on. El Paso Locomotive in the 18 once again. This shot suffers a deflection. Corner kick ensuing. They have scored on 3 corner kicks in this game. Perhaps there's time for 1 more if you're the home side. On the same page there. That pass behind Quezada. Now with 1 more minute to go, Harpos will probably push it forward. And here they come. 1 more shout. Ball sprayed across. And let's see what the decision is. Looking to be a goal kick. Couldn't be kept in by Araki. Once again, April 1st or April 2nd, that is when El Paso Locomotive will play their 2nd round match in this Lamar Hunt US Open Cup 2025 edition. And in the 2025 edition, El Paso able to find their first Open Cup victory. 5-1 your final score between El Paso Locomotive and Harpos FC.
This is one of those interesting games where I think both teams, yes, there's a winner, yes, there's a team that loses, but both teams can take positives from this environment that they've come into. Harpos grew within the game. They got a goal against a side like El Paso, but El Paso goes on. Great performance on the ball and only conceding 1 goal.
Conceding 1, but scoring 5 of their own. And in case you missed any of them, we're going to walk you through all the highlights from this one more time before we let you go.
This was a great ball into the wide channel. First time it catches the back line off guard, and Avila, that is an incredibly hard angle. Getting beat near post was Chavez in that moment, but it struck incredibly well and quickly. And then this ball to the back post, Romero would get a good header, pulls away at the 6-yard box and doubles the lead.
So that makes it 2-0, and you're thinking that's going to be the scoreline going into the break, but then right before halftime, they'd sneak 1 more in.
And this is just the heartbreaker for Harpos because 2-0 seems a little bit more surmountable. 3-0, it becomes very, very difficult. And then this one on top of it, played in, and the own goal off the center back in that moment. Incredibly hard to handle that one.
They make it 5-0 here. Gabby Torres scoring in a 2nd straight game to make it 5. But Harpos would have something to say in this game, and it came in the form of a looping ball and a lovely header.
And it was something that they were able to get, and they deserved that. They had a few opportunities like it. It was a great finish to the back post.
You're able to knock it home. And now, here are your final numbers from this one.
And Harpos FC did get some more possession. It was 79% after the first half, so they get 9% back, get a little bit more. Still more shots, 18-7 for El Paso. They added 6 more in the second half, but Harpos did play into the game a little bit more as it went on and started to even it out a bit.
So that is where your final score sits, though. 5-1 in favor of the USL Championship side. They'll now turn to look ahead to their league match on Saturday, and it's the start of league play in the Sunday League for Harpos after this one. And that is where this show will end. For our entire broadcasting crew, Casey White, my name is Mark Schoenster. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your night, and we'll see you next time here in the US Open Cup.